Check me out.
Yeah. Hey, podcast listening people. As always, we're super excited. You're here, you're listening, you're paying attention, and we're very grateful for that. Before you leave today, please do not forget to do us this favor. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening and leave a review, and make sure you give us a shout on social media too. I hope you enjoyed that little rhyme there. Today's guest, who I'm incredibly humbled and incredibly excited to share his story with you, is a celebrity, a legend in the telecommunications industry. Interestingly enough, our guest, Jeffrey Pearl, has been in the telecom space for over 30 years, working his way from very humble beginnings, door-to-door sales actually, all the way up to leadership roles in one of the largest publicly traded telecom companies that's been around. Jeffrey Pearl is also the CEO and founder of OTG Consulting and CEO and founder of PearlCom. But Jeffrey and his wife Karen have taken some interesting shifts recently in their career that encompasses much more spirituality and health and wellness and well-being. And we had a very fascinating conversation around this, everything from reality transurfing to a lot of those other items I had mentioned. So it was a really great, very interesting, fascinating conversation, and I cannot wait to share with you. You're going to have to listen in to understand what I'm talking about. But before we do that, very quickly, if you're interested in collaborating with us, sponsoring the show, or partnering up in one way or another, please do not hesitate to reach out on social media, or you can send us an email, milehighmentors@gmail.com. We'd love to see how we can partner up in one way or another. I truly believe the best way to change the world is to start locally, and that's part of why we're doing this podcast, Mile High Mentors, Colorado Focus, because if we can't help the people in and around us and impact the great lives of the people here, then how could we impact the world? How can we change the world? In addition to that, our partners over at Active Blogs, who I've been fortunate enough to work with, they've been developing out and refining this really unique process for 18 years to help clients and companies that sell products and services business to business with LinkedIn. So you probably realize LinkedIn it's really undervalued, and a lot of people just don't know how to effectively use the platform. So they are putting on a webinar, which you can give it a watch. It'll give you all the missing links to LinkedIn success, their 7-step process for successful social selling on LinkedIn. And you can find that at activeblogs.com/webinar. Again, activeblogs.com/webinar. Guys, again, really appreciate you listening in and hope you enjoy today's podcast. So without further ado, please welcome the man, Jeffrey Pearl, to the Mile High Mentors podcast. We can just roll right into it with the man, the myth, the legend, Jeffrey Pearl. Appreciate you coming on the Mile High Mentors podcast.
Happy to be here. It's a gorgeous Saturday morning. Great way to start off the weekend.
Is it rainy and gloomy up there?
You know, it isn't. We've got bright blue skies. There's a couple clouds passing, which is unique. So I'm going to get out here in the sun after this podcast. I think when I head to Breckenridge, they've got some kind of a wine festival going on. So
Ooh,
sunshine and wine, can't beat that.
Not at all. It's so gloomy down here, and yeah. And did you guys get a chance to go out and see the supermoon last night?
I didn't. I'm going to check for that tonight because that is something to see. It's amazing. I've seen a few of those in my day. It's just wild.
Yeah, I know.
It's huge, right? It's really big, right?
Yeah. And by the way, this is the very first podcast that we've done remote like this. And so I'm interested. I really appreciate you joining and being able to do this. I know you're very busy, and you and Karen are on a on a mission at this point, and I'm very excited to talk about what you guys are up to. Let's kind of lay the foreground for people. First off, why Colorado? What do you love about Colorado? What's your favorite part of Colorado?
Yeah, it's funny, and we kind of just fell into this. My whole career, I've been in telecom. Started as a sales guy in Boston, banging on doors, and worked my way up the food chain. And I came out here to interview for a job for Quest. I'm a New England guy. I didn't know much about Colorado. Landed out here, and the car's taking me out to the Quest Tower back in the day. It was that shiny one, remember, before they bought US West. And I'm looking at all these white-capped mountains and how beautiful it was. It was like a postcard for a New England kid. I've been traveling, obviously, but you just see it. It's just amazing. And took the job out here and just fell in love with it immediately. We lived down in the south in Cherry Hills Village area, and I said to Karen, when we drove out there on University, you could see the mountains, the white-capped mountains. You know how it is, even in July. Right now, there's still a little touch of snow up in the mountains here and there.
I know you posted a video the other day, and I literally thought you had a cap on.
Yeah.
I literally thought there was snow behind you for some reason.
Well, there is some snow up here. It's interesting. I took a picture. I'll send it over to you of the remaining bit of the half pipe. So we have one of the largest half pipes in North America here on Copper Mountain. So in the foreground is these wildflowers that are just every color under the sun, and you've got the snow behind it. It's amazing. I'll send you the picture because it's quite amazing.
Yeah.
The half pipe really lasts all season right into the next snow because it's so big it doesn't even get a chance to melt, even though it's 90 degrees and sunny.
And you're a skier or snowboarder?
Skier.
Skier?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to be friends, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, I'm still friends with snowboarders. We let everybody in. But to go back to answer your question, it's it's really the beauty and the lifestyle. So if you just look around and as I start to share with you the journey, I should be becoming more in tune to being in the now and really focusing on. Last night I was just sitting with a glass of wine, watching the hummingbirds come and go from the feeder, and it got chilly here last night, and just chills down, which is so great. And then today we'll go up to Breckenridge. You can whitewater raft out here. The sun's out every single day, and the skiing is phenomenal. So there's not much not to like in Colorado. And then I know you're focused a lot on business here. We have about 300,000 people a year moving to Colorado, so it's a great place to start a business. It's thriving, and they just keep pouring in. And every time I go down there, I was just down there this week, and I'm amazed at the infrastructure that's being built. This, Caterpillar vehicles all over the place, moving earth and increasing the size of highways as we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the good and bad, right? The good is we're growing. The bad is, we're taking down more of the great land out here. But, there's still tons of it, as you know.
People hate on it. People hate on everyone that's moving out here. I have no inherent problem with it whatsoever. Traffic's bad, but there's more opportunity moving here, more incredible people to connect with. I don't see the problem with it. We're going to become a more modern city or a fast-growing city. I'm downtown Denver right now. I live in the Rhino district, and there's so much activity happening down here. And I've lived down here. Like, I came from Fort Collins down to Denver maybe 6 years ago, and the growth is outrageous. Like, everything from here to Union Station was a field, and now there's a Whole Foods there. There's Sky Rises. There's King Supers. I love it.
Yeah, you got a bunch of cool breweries popping up out there too. Just for everybody else out there in Radio Land, Connor's in the area where all the cool kids live.
I just call it Hipsterville. I live in Hipsterville when anybody asks me. If you want to talk about the definition of gentrification, it is probably literally Rhino, because it's challenging situation. Literally I look out my window, and this was all tent city when I moved in here 2 years ago, and the Salvation Army's down the street, and now you have all these wealthier people that are moving into the area right here and pushing it further and further back. 5 years ago, nobody would come into this area. Nobody my age would really be living in this area so much.
Right. You're absolutely right. Actually, there was one pause when I came out to interview with Quest. I came in the airport and we came across 70, 70 by that big Purina building. And, there was a bunch of crap back there, like industrial stuff. And that was my first view of Denver. I'm like, wow, this doesn't look so great.
Yeah, that's a sketchy view for a lot of people coming in from out of state, and you have that long drive. Have you ever looked up the conspiracy of, not to get totally sidetracked, but the DIA conspiracy? DIA airport?
I've read bits and pieces and seen some of it. Yeah, pretty wild.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. So where are you from originally? And do you mostly go by Jeff or Jeffrey?
Jeffrey.
Okay.
Jeffrey, where I'm from originally, they call me Jeff back in the day. I don't know, somehow in college it morphed into Jeffrey, but so. Yeah,
I feel like you need to have like an English accent. Jeffrey.
No, I'm from Portsmouth, New Hampshire originally, if you know where that is. We don't have a lot of seacoast in New Hampshire, about 17 miles, and Portsmouth is right there on the ocean. So born and raised out there, and I went to college at UNH, which was basically a drive down the road. Is probably like, an hour from or less from where I was born.
Wow. And so what was your childhood like? Like, were your parents entrepreneurs, and did they get you into the realm that you're in now, or did you find that along your way through college?
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I grew up in hardcore blue collar family. I was actually the first of my family to go to college. Even my generation, certainly the one before that, my dad and his brother didn't go. They were both in construction and uncle in a commercial painting business. My grandfather before that, was a farmer that moved to Portsmouth and started a construction company, building residential homes, that kind of thing. So I grew up with a hardcore work ethic. Like my dad, made us really work hard when we went out to the job site, and my brother and I would be screwing around on the job. We'd always get in trouble. But anyway,
taking off with the bulldozers and
it wasn't that. It was just I'm talking about even in the beginning, like cleaning up the job sites when we were just kids. But so got a hardcore work ethic there, but went off to college and started to build up the career from there. It was all new. I mean, they look at me now thinking like I'm like some kind of Donald Trump or something.
Just longer hair and more mountainous and hippie, I guess.
Right, exactly. Right. Anyway, but it's just but it's been great, and we've kind of expanded, from the initial. I think we talked about earlier. Started in Boston, just banging doors and sales, and I fell into telecom.
Hold on before you go there. What did you have the anticipation of going to college when you were growing up, or was there something that shifted in your life that made that transition? Like, your entire family was blue collar, so what made that transition for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe some friends in high school, and not a large percentage of. I mean, not everyone went to college either. We have a high percentage of folks in some of these communities, as you know, they just kind of stay in the community, and nothing wrong with it. By the way, a lot of good people. And they go into construction or some type of trade, or maybe they open a brewery, or it's some type of on the seacoast, some business around boats or fishing or whatever. Nothing wrong with it. I think. When you asked the question, it just popped in my head. My dad, at the job site, it might be like 100 degrees out, and I'm carrying shingles up on my shoulder up onto a roof, or he has me inside a attic. I remember one time insulating, and it must have been like 150 degrees in there, and he would say, "I'm doing this, so that you don't want to do this. You want to go out and go to school and get an education and have a better life," kind of a thing. And he used to drill that into my head here and there when I'd be complaining about 150 degrees with that pink insulation all getting inside your skin.
Oh no,
it's the worst.
Oh, that stuff is awful.
Terrible. Yeah.
Oh man, I built a house for Habitat for Humanity one year, and I fell into that stuff, and it's not fun.
No,
it's not fun. at all. It's like I've fallen into a bed of cactus before, and those are that's a little bit worse. But
I don't know. I think I'd take the cactus. I've hit some cactus before, but that the fiberglass is hard to get out of your right. That's what I don't like about it. Right?
Ooh.
Yeah,
creeps me out. That would probably send anybody to college, honestly.
Well, I at the end of the day, I think about those things when when times get rough now. When times get rough, it's like a wake up call. Yeah, it's not that rough, right?
Did you know at that time what you wanted to do in school or go to school for?
No, that's a funny question because I was a good student where I'd never get anything below a B, so I had no C's all through high school, all A's and B's. So I had good grades. I was good in math and science, and so you could probably go anywhere, but not know anything. I just sent my application in the University of New Hampshire, which was just down the road in Durham, in state. And I got accepted. I had to pick a major. I talked to my dad. I said, hey, why don't you become an engineer, civil engineer? They make all the money building bridges and whatnot. I said, great idea. I'll do that. So I went and started out as an engineer and, physics, calculus, surveying, what else did I have? It was basically every class I had was all formulas and numbers. And, it was a whole different world for me. And it was at a time, too, where I started to get involved in, the fraternity. I mean, it was almost like an Animal House environment. That's a story. That's a story for another day, not here. But
are you sure? We could probably share. I'm sure people would be interested in that.
Well, I'll touch on it a bit, but it was one of these hardcore fraternities. So here I am, blue collar kid coming into an engineering school. The engineering school was really tough, by the way. I mean, you really had to study and crank, kind of keep all these formulas straight and all the learning and all that stuff. So I did well the first semester, got involved with the whole fraternity system, and didn't spend as much time on schoolwork, spent a lot more time messing around and, parties and kegs and the pledging and all that stuff. And I actually got thrown out of the engineering school. And,
when was this? What year is this?
That was my first year of college.
What year?
So I have to go back in time. Well, I graduated high school in 1986. So I'm 87, 88, I guess, whatever that was.
Got it.
Head off to college. So, so we petitioned to get back in. I had a petition to get back in. I was a good student. I already told you that great grades coming in. Obviously, I didn't have great grades that semester. And the engineering school is very, very tough. And so, physics and calculus, I didn't do so well. It's kind of hard to do well if you don't read the books and you don't study and you just go take the test cold. I don't recommend that to any young kids out there listening to this. Not a good strategy, right?
No,
so
that's how I always rolled. But I did sales and marketing, so that's a little different. But I took algebra like 4 times in a row. So
you're smart. So just to kind of come full circle on the story, my dad went back up and we met with, I don't know, it was like the equivalent of Dean Warmer, whoever we met with to get me back in. So I was thrown out of the engineering school. I was supposed to take a semester off. We had a lot of things going on. I had a younger brother had an operation. So, we this was all true. We told them the story of everything that's going on. So they gave me another chance. So I took a bunch of gut courses and got, I didn't get a 4.0, but, high 3 something. And, got back on track. But what happened in that process, back on track, so now I'm in the fraternity and we had some type of event and some alumni came up to the this event. And this one guy comes in, he had a brand new 7 Series BMW. This thing was shiny, sweet, and I'm just, some young kid. I see him pulling with this thing, and I'm having a beer with him at the bar. We had this big walk-in cooler with all the kegs. It was your classic fraternity with stone bar with a big pine top, kind of thing, the tap system in the basement. And, I'm asking him, like, what does it take to be successful out there? Because, I didn't say this, but I'm watching him driving with that car. It's like, this guy knows what he's doing, obviously. Me being
and he was your age?
He was a couple years out of school, so he was graduated alumni. So he said, I'm in sales, and I said, "Whoa, interesting. What does it take, to be in sales?" And he goes, "Jeffrey, we're looking for guys just like you. You got a great personality, you got the gift of gab, and if you've got a strong work ethic, that's all you need." And I said, "That's great. I'm going to be in sales." I made that decision right there on the spot. So I went and started taking courses on human psychology, started studying how people think, not people that are sick, but how the average person thinks about things. And I took a bunch of business courses, underneath as my own little recipe was psychology and human nature. And then I took a concentration of business. And that was my mission to get out and to go into sales.
So I'm actually surprised about the engineer background, because just the few times that I've talked to you before and what you do, put yourself out there, I would not have anticipated you to be more of an engineer type in the beginning. So, are you math-minded with a personality, would you say? Or are you more of the personality and because I talk to a lot of engineers. They're not extremely personable like you.
Right. Now, well, thank you for that. I take that as a compliment. But yeah, I have, built some phone companies from the ground up. So I have a technical mind on how to connect all this stuff together. But I had a little bit of a problem too once I got in there, and just in general, the people that I was going to school with and focusing my time on. When you get up to college, there's all these different buckets of people. And engineering school looks very different than the School of Liberal Arts, right? Two different crowds, and they all mixed together and stuff at the parties and all the social events and things like that. But I started to feel early on like this isn't my crowd. I don't think I could spend my time doing this. And you just have to figure this stuff out when you're young. At the end of the day, and it's hard. But I decided that really wasn't my personality type.
So what was going into sales like for you early on?
Well, I immediately came out of college and went down to Boston. I told you I grew up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So Boston, big city of dreams. That's where I was going to go work. I moved in with one of my fraternity brothers. He had a open bedroom in an apartment, and great place down there. And I started going through the Boston Globe like anybody else, just trying to, because I had no connections, other than maybe some fraternity brothers. But outside of that, came from a blue collar environment. I'm just going to open up the newspaper, look for a sales job. Everybody wants, 5 or 6 years experience. You know how this is. You're a young guy starting out like, I just got out of college. I got no experience. So I started looking at opportunities, and I had about 4 opportunities, and one of them happened to be telecom. And, I went on the interview, hit it off with the guy. The sales manager was really cool. He's a, skier, young guy, great shape, great personality. And, I'm in the interview, and someone knocks on the glass outside his window, and it's one of my fraternity brothers. He noticed, my resume, all I had basically had were my summer jobs and the offices I held at the fraternity. So he was good friends with one of my fraternity brothers, had him stop by. So it was a nice feeling for me. Everybody in there had a suit on. It was a white-collar job. That's what I envisioned. Telecom, okay, whatever, great. So I think I can sell phone service. I like these guys. I'm going to give it a go. So just started out and dove into the sales pit.
Yeah, and getting into telecom in those early days, that's massive. Telecom's still on this up and up trend. It's always evolving, but I can imagine being in it in the early days. And so your first role there was literally door to door, like selling to consumers.
Yeah, but I had this real fancy title. I was a communications consultant.
Ah, okay.
Right out of the gates, I was.
So you weren't salesman; you were consultant.
I was a consultant, and yes, I was.
You can dress a pig in a dress, but it's still a pig.
Exactly right. So no. Listen, I get such a kick out of that. As I tell this story, it's really funny.
Well, I did door to door sales for 2.5 years to work my way through college, and they call this proximity marketing proximity marketing managers or something like that, or like we're a proximity marketer,
Right.
Fancy term for door-to-door salesperson.
But no, it's great. Yeah, it's like if you hand somebody a card that says cold calling, sales killer, closer, I mean, it's going to kind of put people off. So consulting is a little easier. So I got in the trenches. I kind of looked around me. Obviously, I'm one of the youngest guys in the office, just out of college, and said, well, what am I going to do? I said, well, I was back then. I started listening to Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, all his positive motivational stuff. So I kind of had that mindset. I woke up every day. It was a gorgeous day outside before I, even looked out the window. And then I just looked around and said, I'm just going to outwork everybody. I'm just going to watch what they're doing. And if somebody makes, 50 calls a day, I'm going to make 60. If someone's going to make 70, I'll make 80. So, I was just my goal was to make more phone calls and go on more sales appointments than everybody else, and just have a positive mental attitude. That was really the recipe. That's all I knew then, right? And it worked.
And this was in Boston that you started door-to-door?
Yep. It was actually Cambridge was where it was. First Phone of New England was the name of the company. First Phone of New England, little small phone company, right down the street from the AT&T central office. We were basically reselling Watts lines back then. So yeah, you're pointing back then. AT&T had just been broken up when I came out of school. So when I would call you and say, hey, Connor, it's Jeffrey Pearl with First Phone. I want to come in and talk to you about your long distance. You'd say, what do you mean? Your phone services. I have AT&T. Who are you? I explained the competition. No one could even understand back then. They didn't even realize you had a choice. I mean, everybody listening to this podcast, anybody that's not an old telecom guy like me or an old salty dog on the hill, you don't remember that AT&T was the only game in town. If you had a business, you want to open a business there in Colorado, you would go find your space and you'd call up AT&T and say, I need 10 phones and I need phone service. And if they told you the price and you said it was too expensive, they'd say, well, don't buy it. There was nowhere else to go. Isn't that funny?
And back then, they probably had to build new infrastructure for a new business because the reach wasn't everywhere, right? So it was probably like what's the cost comparison from back then to today to set up a project like that?
It's like it's like 20 something cents a minute to make a phone call from like Boston to California. It might have been like 25 cents a minute. I mean, now it costs less than a penny. So it's if you just look at that as a percentage, it's amazing. To big businesses that what this competition has done for the industry. Some people were complaining when that was happening because of all the confusion with all the players coming in. Like, who the hell's First Phone in New England? Let alone MCI, never heard of them. Sprint, never heard of them. Cable and Wireless, all those other companies, AllNet that came out of the woodwork back then. There was a lot of confusion. But that confusion, the competition, not only it did two things: it drove the pricing down, but also took the technology up. I mean, you'd never see, AT&T with all this fiber deployed and 5G rolling out today if that never happened, right? If you own all the customers and everything works just fine and you're making a nice profit, you might make some enhancements, but at the end of the day, if you've got competitors coming in all over the place, you have to make enhancements to the network, right? So net, it was really good for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you have to keep adding value. It's so interesting how many people I've had on this podcast and other podcasts that I've listened to that have had major experiences early on in their careers, either door-to-door, like some form of door-to-door sales, whether they're, just selling something on the side of the road or like literally pushing door to door, business to business or something like that. So it's so fascinating to me. And it makes sense to me just because I know what my experience was. But what was your biggest takeaway with the door to door sales?
Yeah, you just have to make things happen. And thank you for saying that, because I think, even now, as you know, I've been CEO of a publicly traded company, run my own firms, and at the top of the food chain, I would tell people, look for those self-starters. I mean, I always loved to get somebody that was door to door. Maybe they're selling copiers, wheeling those copiers up and down the streets of Boston and knocking on doors was just brutal. The takeaway, though, is, I think the thing about a sales guy going door to door, or a sales gal, when I say guys, I'm talking about guys and gals, basically nothing happens unless you go out.
Got to be careful about that nowadays, apparently. So,
yeah, well, OTG Consulting, one of the companies that I've got rolling here, is Old Telecom Guys and gals. I added on there for something. We have plenty of women joining the group. But, I think it's that ability to understand that nothing happens unless you go make it happen. So, someone that's banging on doors, I think my base salary back then was $11,000. So, for me to kind of go out and, get this yuppie lifestyle I was after, BMWs and the condos and all that stuff back then, that's what we called them back in the 80s, right? And young urban professionals, right? So, to go get all that, I wasn't going to get with the base salary. It was all about the commission. So, nothing was going to happen unless I made it happen. So I think the reason why you see a lot of successful people start that way, they understand that at an early stage of their career. And, certainly that's helped me all through my career. As you start to get, executive positions, I can tell you, I've seen some executives all of a sudden get there and put their feet up on the desk and open up the newspaper or whatever, and someone else is going to do the work now. The ones that are very successful still have that mentality, like nothing's going to happen unless I make it happen, and they keep that in their core. And if you do this day in and day out, it's like anything else. 30, 45 days, it becomes a habit. So if I'm going to get up at 5 a.m., get my dose of positive mental attitude, and listen to tapes on the way into work, and just buckle down, start banging out calls and not kibitzing in the office. And that becomes part of your core. And, that's part of your personality and your persona moving through your career. So I think that's why you see a lot of, those hardcore door knockers that were successful and had good ethics rise up into executive positions.
And there's plenty of people that have been through that experience and haven't come out of it on top or continuing to build. So early on, listening to Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast, is people really underestimate the value of getting those tiny tidbits of it, even if it's a tiny golden nugget. Like I was listening to I was talking about this the other day. I was listening to a Tony Robbins podcast.
It's great.
And so it's so funny. It totally just one thing he said totally knocked my mindset. My objective for our business in the next couple years is $10 million a year residual business. And then I was listening to Tony Robbins' podcast, and he was like, any schmuck, any entrepreneur, any Joe Schmo can go build a $10 million business. It takes someone truly great to build a $50 million company and $100 million and $200 million and $1 billion company. I was like, whoa. And that totally elevated my mindset from there. And I wiped that from my mind. I'm like, 50 million. That's where we got to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I guess where I was going with that. So early on, was there somebody early on in the days that got you into listening to the positivity and the positive mindset like that? Or did you just fall upon that on yourself?
I'm not really sure what the answer is, but it just starts to build on itself. Once you start to get involved, it becomes addictive, and you get hungry for more. So I don't know if it was one of those first sales managers that brought it up, or I certainly went to see Brian Tracy and Anthony Robbins and Zig Ziglar. Started to go to all these events, and it started building on itself. I think what happens is you get caught up in, I always get a kick out of it, how they've turned them into businesses. So when you hear them speak, they'll say, hey, what does it take to be successful? Any of them will start to talk about improving yourself, and they quickly go into, back then it was cassette tapes, right? You listen to audio programs and books, and that's what they do, right? This is what they sell at the end of the seminar. Up in the back or on the way out, you got this big convention center, and there's all the tape sets, and people are buying them like crazy. So that's what they do. But, at the end of the day, it's very true. if you keep feeding your mind with all of this positive information, it changes your core and what you're going after. As I learned, I did a video the other day about law of attraction. First of all, positive mental attitude, PMA, that's what we called it back then. That's what a lot of that was, the mindset. And then it evolves into the law of attraction and the secret and all of that, and even out to these crazy things I was talking to you before we started this podcast about reality transurfing is one of the new things that I stumbled upon that I think is pretty interesting. We can kind of touch on that at the end. But I think it just fueled itself. And, it certainly helped me fine-tune my character and core as I went forward. I mean, I like to put people in two buckets, light givers and light takers. You walk into a room of a bunch of business people, you know what I'm talking about. There's light givers in the room. Everybody's around them listening to their story. They want to hang out with them. They're laughing. Big smiles on their faces. They glow, right? You can see the aura. And there's light takers and somebody back there, maybe they're not talking to anyone, or maybe they're in there talking negatively. This event stinks. There's nobody here. I can't find any business. But you and I could walk into a room and I'd say, tell me what that person is, a light giver, light taker. And you'd probably be 99% correct. We'd be on the same page 99% of the time. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah, you can pick up. It's interesting because also this goes back to the door-to-door thing. I think so much human interaction like that, you really start to build a context of energy. And yeah, we have to talk about the trans, what was it again?
Reality transurfing.
And don't worry, guys. I already asked Jeffrey. He's not changing sexes on us. That's not what this is. But energy is, and they're starting to realize how actually physically measurable energy is. And it goes back to the Think and Grow Rich. We were just talking about Think and Grow Rich the other day. Did you guys watch the movie yet?
Yeah, I haven't, but I've read the book a few times, so I've got that. I need to watch it. I just need to have the time to sit down, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I sent you that link. It's interesting, but so many people from nothing, from the hardest of hards to the toughest of toughs, being able to emanate the positive energy and surround yourself by other people that you recognize emanate that energy as well.
Right, exactly. But you're right. If you're going to be out there banging on doors, you figure out real quick, you better be one of those light givers, because you walk into that receptionist, or he or she, back then it was, usually a woman up front with sometimes with this look like, don't even think about coming in and interrupting me or anybody in this business. So you better come in and become that light giver, and just a blessing that came off the street, because he or she needs to listen to you and let you in if you didn't have an appointment. You're just showing up, right? I mean, you figure it out pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, you got to build rapport pretty damn quick. That's for sure. But that's cool, man. And so what was your transition from sales to leadership? What brought you into that transition?
Yeah, that's a great one. I as a sales guy, the other thing that you start to build is this sense of competition. You want to be. They stack ranked all the sales guys in the office. I always wanted to be, if not number one, in that top three. Then you want to become the sales manager, right? I got to become the sales manager. That's the next gig. I have to be the sales manager. So the guy that owned the company was out in, I think it was in Tennessee, somewhere, southern accent. And, they were interviewing for a sales manager.
Somewhere, southern accent.
Yeah. And he came to Boston with a southern drawl, and he's like, wasn't so sure he was going to put me in as sales manager. The biggest problem was I was one of the top sellers.
This was the sales, the VP of sales.
This guy he owned the company. So this was back at First Phone in New England before we merged with, LDDS, WorldCom, and the whole thing.
How big was the company at this point?
It wasn't very big at all. We had a location in Boston and a location out in Tennessee somewhere, right? So this is before we merged in with other companies. So, there's probably 10 sales guys in my office in Boston, and a sales manager. That's all it was. And, so I wanted to become the sales manager, obviously. And, a guy flies in and interviewing with me and said, I'd like to give you this job, but, I'm really worried because you're our top sales guy. I can't afford to lose your sales productivity. This is a small company. I mean, I was doing a lot, but that wouldn't mean anything at an AT&T or Verizon, right? I mean, this is a small company, so my production was really a good chunk of what they were doing in Boston. So I said, his name was Jeff as well. And I said, hey, Jeff, don't worry about that. I've already thought about it. I want you to think about it this way. Like we've already talked about, I'm very successful, and thank you, you compliment, very successful, top guy in the office. So here's what I'm going to do. You make me sales manager, I'm going to be like an octopus. And so I'm in the center, and my 8 tentacles are these 8 sales reps that roll up to me. I'm going to have them do exactly what I do now, because now I'm the boss, and I set the pace. I've done this all through my own efforts, so they see that I was the most successful person. So when I tell them you need to do this to be successful, they're going to say, well, Jeffrey did this, and he was successful, so I'm credible. And so, make a long story short, he said, okay, I'm going to give you the chance, put me in as sales manager. And basically that's what I did. I basically worked even harder, helping everybody get there. When you got a sales team of 10, you usually have 2 people that are really good rock stars, 2 people that probably need to be fired, and the other 6 in there are all mediocre. So what you try to do is take the 6 and get them all in that bucket of rock star status. And the last 2, try to help them. We had performance improvement plans. I do all I could to try to get them back into the bucket. If you can't, you have to move them out. But I mean, at the end of the day, you really have to push as many of those people up into that top performing bucket as possible. And you lead by example, create a positive environment, do all you can to help them. I was always the first guy in the office, last guy to leave, because I helped the early people with their proposals, and there's always someone that's staying late, trying to get a proposal off. So that was my first job as sales manager, and it was I had to do a sales job on the owner, president, because he was worried about losing my production.
Isn't that the double-edged sword? And it's probably happens in a lot of companies. Is you're great at sales, you want to move up to leadership, but leadership doesn't want to bring you up to sales because you're such a high performer. They're going to lose out on you in that role. And what's your advice for people that find themselves in that scenario?
You mean the top performing salesperson, or the
that are trying to get up and into a leadership position? How could they really sell themselves on that? Well,
it's like, go back to the story. I mean, you really have to understand that now what you're doing. I had another mentor tell me once, it's like you now have the price of admission. This was going to the next level, to director. He said, you now have the price of admission. You're a successful salesperson. Now you have to, let me know you have the recipe for success. You need to be able to teach it. So if you're a top performing salesperson, you have to understand that to be a successful sales manager, what you need to do is not only lead by example, because we already know you're a top performing salesperson, but you also have to have the ability to teach it. Take that recipe and share that with everybody on the team on an ongoing basis in a positive way. That nurturing that you need as a manager that you may not have as a salesperson. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of great salespeople that they're very self-centered. I mean that in a good way. You have to have that self-love first to go out there and, shine out to everybody else. So you got that to start with. And number 2, you got to be a little bit of selfish with your time. I mean, it takes a lot of effort and time to go into a sales organization to be the top performer. You got to put a lot of time into it. But when you step up into that management role, you have to start thinking about all the others on your team. How can I help them get up here? It's not about Jeffrey Pearl anymore. It's about all these individuals. How do I get them going? So back to answering your question, it's take what you know, put it into a recipe, and share that recipe with others, just like the recipe for a cake. You got to put eggs in it. You've got to put in the milk, the butter, the flour, whatever the heck else goes in a cake. And, if you leave something off, you don't have a cake at the end. So, to be a successful salesperson, you got to get up early. You got to have a positive mental attitude. You got to do the work. You bang on the doors. You got to do the proposals. You got to follow through. All that stuff, that recipe, you've got to be able to share that with everybody on the team and help as many of them get up to your level as possible.
It's interesting how much it's the toughest job in the world, but the most rewarding.
Yeah. Well, I would tell everybody, somebody wanting to get into sales, and I probably stole this from somebody else. You hear all these things, and all of a sudden it becomes mine. But
it becomes your own stuff, right? Yeah.
It's the
put your signature on it for now. That's okay.
Yeah. It's the hardest working, high paying job. Meaning, if you're going to work really hard to make it, it's also the lowest working, less effort, low paying job. So, I mean, basically, you have the opportunity to do nothing and just take your base salary for a while until someone cans you, and you have to go find the next one. Mm-hmm. Or you can work your tail off and be the top earner and make more money than the CEO, right? It's up to you.
Mm-hmm. And so going from salesperson to leadership is really about leveling up the people around you. And you go from selling your clients to selling your team on how they can have all the ingredients for success that you are leveraging, basically becoming the head chef in a way.
Right. Exactly. And, still leading by example. I'll share this story too. One of the buildings we moved to in Boston was out on Revere Beach, and we had this parking garage. And I remember I had this boss who was the VP at the time, and I would always try to be the first one in the office. He was an early morning guy too. So when I drove in, first thing I looked for it every day when I drove into the parking garage. Guess what? His car. Was he there? Did I beat him there? I mean, so I think leading by example. I only share that because I was the underling. Because he understood this, that he had to be the first guy in the office. So once you become that sales manager, it's not time to put your feet up on the desk saying, "Hey guys, go out there and make it happen, or you're fired." You still have to lead by example and show them that it is hard work, and you do it with a smile every day. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way it is when you start out, right? It's a lot of hard work.
And then you kept climbing in that industry. So one, you must have had you must have had a passion for the industry as a whole and where it was going. But what kept you leveling up to eventually? You were CEO at a publicly traded company, you said, right? At one point in time, and you've been board member on multiple public companies, right?
Yeah, board, not a public company, but board members of companies. But yeah, a CEO of a publicly traded company. So, same thing. I mean, I'm still that sales guy, competitive nature. I always had, goals. I've always kept a goal book too. In an early age, I started doing that. So I could show you goal books from the last 35 years where I had, I'm going to be VP of sales on this date, and it's actually pretty scary how close I hit some of these goals. Types of cars I'm going to drive, types of houses I'm going to live in, jobs. And I would put it out there so many years out. And then I go back and look at it. I didn't hit them all, obviously, right on the money, but it's amazing how many goals I hit within months. So that didn't change. So sales manager, then next job was director. The next one was regional vice president, then vice president, senior vice president, CEO. Same story there. Moving to that next level, taking everybody around you up there. So what happens is sales manager or director, whatever that job is, you master that one, if you will, and master the recipe for that. And same thing goes, you move up to that next level and you've got to teach others how to be successful in the role that you just came from. Again, leading by example, right?
What do most people not realize about the telecom industry, the average person?
Well, I think the average, a couple different things, but the technology, I mean, just to, place calls, whether now it's voice over IP and all the software that's involved, right? Look at us right here. I'm up at Copper Mountain on a Wi-Fi connection, looking at a laptop, looking at you here, right? So I think a lot of people just don't understand how all the technology works, and that's a given. It's about anything. I wouldn't understand how to open up somebody's body and do heart surgery. So, right. So So that doctor doing heart surgery, today, wouldn't understand how all these things connect so that you and I are having this call. So I think that's one thing. But the other thing, and I'm on a mission educating people now with this big transition going on. We're shutting down the PSTN, but there's still lots of opportunity.
PSTN?
Public Switch Telephone Network. Thank you. Yeah, that's the other thing in this industry. We're crazy with acronyms.
Oh, yeah, you guys are awful.
Terrible. Yeah, terrible. We had dictionaries back in the day that were filled with acronyms, and I had to learn all these things, and crazy. But yeah, PSTN's a public switch telephone network. It's the old phone network that we all grew up with. That's all being shut down right now. Most people don't realize
completely eliminated.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense anymore for the phone companies to really run it. It's costly. They all want to go to full IP and just internet protocol, like internet basically.
Is that the basic home phone that's wired in?
Yeah, there's not many of those left. I mean, people that still have a home phone, they're on Comcast or one of their competitors. And they call it digital phone. It's plugged into an ATA. It's really going over an IP network. So people don't realize it, but there's not really many home phones left. Aunt Millie somewhere in Michigan still has one, but outside of that, they're far and fewer in between. And businesses all have to move off of old phone systems and traditional phone networks. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going through a massive transition. But
is that the 5G? Is that 5G or?
Well, 5G is wireless. So what I'm talking about is moving all of the wireline stuff to IP. And so it's essentially taking voice calls now and shipping them over the network just like data. Voice is just data. So like you'd send an email and hit send. Now I'm talking through this little microphone, and this is just going through the internet to you. So the voice just goes through the network just like an email, just like an Excel spreadsheet. The 5G is really wild, though. That's being rolled out right now. That's where you're going to pull a full gigabit out of the air. That's going to be real game-changing. We're going to see some of that happen this year, but a lot more next year. That's huge as well.
Yeah. What do you think about that? And all of it it's just damn magic to me. Like, I have no idea how this works. You probably have more of a technical idea. What were your thoughts on the merger with Sprint and what was it? Not AT&T. What was a big one that they just partnered up? They just partnered up to do 5G. Oh
yeah. Well, these mergers are just you're going to continue to see more and more of these. Like right there outside your door. Quest just merged with Level 3. You know that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
CenturyLink
bought Time Warner.
Yeah, sorry, CenturyLink. Level 3 bought Time Warner. CenturyLink bought Level 3.
Mm-hmm.
CenturyLink is Savvis, CenturyTel buying Quest. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's hard to keep track of it. Someone just told me the other day, and I like to think I'm pretty in tune to the telecom industry, that Plantronics bought Polycom. I didn't even realize that. Plantronics bought Polycom, and then my friend Dave Norman over at Edgewater just sold this company, I think, to Genband. But anyway, the consolidation that you're talking about, what do I think of it? It has to happen. What the other big thing that people don't realize is there's a whole new looming set of phone companies out there. The phone company of the future does not look like AT&T or Verizon. It looks more like Amazon or Google or Microsoft. So there's these platform players that are coming out.
Is that good or is that bad, though?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, it's bad for a lot of the people like me, old telecom guys. And again, we'll get there and why I've created this thing. It's one of my missions in life is to save as many of my cronies as I can. As the Titanic hits the iceberg and everyone's bailing out. I mean, this OTG is like this big lifeboat.
It's a safe haven.
It's a safe haven. Yeah, exactly right.
You're up in the mountains because you're actually building a facility up there, aren't you?
Right. Yeah, I'm building the ark up here for the flood. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these mergers have to happen. So at the end of the day, the technology, let's just touch upon that. All the technology is good. The change is all good. And I know sometimes it, eliminates jobs and things like that. It's just a shift. But, it's a platform, right? Connor, if you and I are on LinkedIn and we're communicating back and forth as we have, why do I have to get out of that platform to go pick up a phone and call you? I should be able to just click to dial and dial nowadays, click to contact you through WebRTC, another acronym, right? But, basically it's peer-to-peer calling on the internet. We can talk like we're doing right now. We can do video like we're doing right now. We can screen share across that same connection. So that's all goodness for all of us consumers. And the service providers don't have to maintain as much infrastructure. It's an IP network as long as they keep that running smoothly and flowing. Things happen quickly on networks like that, right? So it's all good. It's all good. The mergers are good, I guess, is at the end of the day. And there's always somebody that loses out. Jobs go away. I get that. But that's the change that goes on. You have to kind of reinvent yourself.
Yeah, it's better for the consumer, obviously, because things will get cheaper because they're able to get more efficient. And same with Amazon. I mean, Amazon's a big, massive company, but you can get a package on your doorstep in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. On that note, did you see Amazon now is calling out to all entrepreneurs to help their distribution? I don't know if you saw it.
Oh, yeah. They're kind of almost like building out their own logistical transportation,
right.
services or something. Like you can start a business from scratch through Amazon.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I mean. So, Amazon, obviously, people are worried about it's taking away some bricks and mortar jobs. Although I saw an article the other day that it's not, but they're creating new jobs. I mean, an entrepreneur can open up a business and you already have your biggest client, Amazon, handing you packages saying, hey, Connor, here you go, deliver this one for me. You can have up to 40 vans and run a significant business, and they're just fueling it. I mean, so this new technology does create new opportunities, but you got to kind of create a mindset that, I'm willing to shift and go where the opportunity is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. I'm so fascinated by what's going to happen in logistics, and telecommunications are going to be totally, the next 10 years in those industries are going to be like insanity.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all opportunity because it's all expanding.
Yeah.
So every time you see something go away, like the old PSTN and some old telecom guy that's working on some type of switch that is antiquated, it's no longer available. He or she has to figure something else out, but there's plenty of opportunity on the right side building while we're taking something away on the left side. You just have to be in tune to follow that flow. Yeah,
I have a 10-year-old sister. I can't imagine showing her like a rotary phone right now.
Right, yeah. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, some people still have those. Actually, I'm curious about the 5G thing. I don't know a whole ton about it, but I'm interested about the signal stuff. But let's circle back on that. Let's talk OTG, and then I really want to get into the mindset and the shift that you and Karen are making in your journey that you two had just gone through.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like growing my hair out up here in the mountains. I've kind of becoming a hippie up here. We'll tell you all about that, but I'm not off the deep end though. I've got, this is a planned transition, but OTG. I
never said off the deep end.
No, I know. I say this to people because they look at me like, what are you doing now? You're talking about veganism and mindfulness and meditation and, anyway, we'll get into that. But OTG, so when I was I spent some time at BroadSoft after I sold my last VoIP company. And
tell people what OTG is.
Yeah, OTG Consulting. OTG stands for Old Telecom Guys and Gals, right? So the idea is we're building a master sales agency. And, we're creating a home for ex-telecom executives like myself. And so, as these mergers happen, it's like musical chairs. The music stops, the merger happens, there's not enough chairs in the room, people get exited out. All these deals that go down, basically, it's not because CenturyLink needs level 3's network. They both have plenty of network. They bring them together, bring all the revenue together, and they carve out the SG&A. It's good for the shareholders, because they bring in more revenue and take out costs. And unfortunately, taking out cost is buildings and people are two of the biggest things. So, people losing jobs. So OTG was kind of a brainchild. I was sitting there with companies like AT&T and Verizon and BT. I was over at BroadSoft at the time, trying to help these big phone companies get traction with the software. So I was meeting with executives and talking about how to demo voice over IP, how to pay salespeople, how to train them up, how to get more sales in the space, and learning and verifying that all these big phone companies want to shut down this network. So whenever there's a major transition going on, there's, like as I mentioned, there's opportunity. So OTG is a master sales agency. So what we do, Connor, is we go into a SMB or an enterprise business that might be on the old technology, might have an Avaya phone system, some old telephone connections, and they need to move the whole thing to cloud-based communications. What we do is bring 5 or so solutions for everything that we look at, And we, because of our knowledge and our connectivity to the C-level executives at these service providers, we know what the rates should look like, what the terms should look like. We know who's better at integrating with CRM, who's better for international locations. So we're bringing all of our knowledge to our clients completely free. And then we get paid on the backside. It's a commission system. So the phone companies pay OTGers and other agents instead of paying a direct sales force. Right?
So it's much more of you're able to go in and work with your clients in a much more agnostic approach.
Yeah, I love it. So we talked a lot about sales. I would carry that one flag into battle, and it was that color that I had my whole sales army. And we had almost 3,000 guys working for me at Quest, kind of a thing. We had a big group. And when I came to see you, I am going to sell you Quest. If not today, tomorrow. Everybody's going to be a customer of mine. It's just a matter of time. That's the way I always looked at it. It's a heck of a lot easier now because when I come see you, I have every brand, and I really don't care which one you pick. I'm going to share my knowledge with you about each one of these brands and why they're best for you. And you're going to pick, one as we look at maybe whittle it down to 2 or 3, see the presentations, do the demos, all that stuff. You're going to pick one. Whichever one you pick, I get compensated on the backside. So at the end of the day, us OTGers have the luck to be in a position of we're not we're agnostic to the technology. It doesn't matter which company you pick. Right.
And that's good. That's really that's helpful because today people have access to more information than when you were doing door-to-door sales back then. And so they may not have seen other solutions. Now the consumers win, the buyers win. They have all the options in the world.
Exactly. So when I explain the whole process to somebody, that I usually get a question like, why wouldn't I do this?
Yeah. I'm
talking to another executive, they get it. And I guess the one analogy I'd give you when I left BroadSoft to go start these other companies, I had to go get health insurance. Our whole health insurance is a crazy system. Like, we don't even want to get on that topic, but I had to figure it out. I mean, we were paying a lot of money for health insurance, and where do I go? I don't know anything about it. I finally found this broker. We kind of hit it off. I liked the guy, and I basically started asking him, like, well, what would you put your family on? And so same kind of thing. He had these 3 options. I said, you tell me which one you'd pick. That's what I'm going to take. So at the end of the day, I was entrusting him because he's the expert. That's what he's been doing his whole life. I know nothing about it. I'm just telling him what I need. And he said, yep, this is the one for you. One of these 2. So, same kind of thing. So we're like a broker in the business where we can bring all the solutions to you with our expertise.
How can someone who's in that space differentiate themselves? Because there are a lot more of the individual consultants, and I've seen a lot of your own consultants rebrand themselves almost as their own company. How can somebody win at that? How can they differentiate themselves from everybody else out there?
Yeah, it's a challenging one. I can tell you the OTG strategy. If you go to our website, you won't see, click here to become an agent and get rich. You won't see every brand under the sun that you see on some others. So what I'm trying to do is focus on bringing in executives from the space. So we're the guys that have run the phone companies. So as I'm talking to you, Mr. Executive at an enterprise or SMB place, we're the executives that have run the phone companies, and we're sharing our knowledge with you. If you look at others, I think there's a lot around. They have every brand under the sun. It's more of a sales gig. By the way, we're very similar. We're exactly the same, but this is kind of somewhat of the spin. And, as you know, when you differentiate in an industry where, everybody looks the same, sometimes it's just a little bit of an advantage. It's just a little twist on it. So ours is all about, we're the executives that have run the phone companies. We're bringing that knowledge to you, and we're just focused on what's best for you. So it's targeted to enterprise C-level executives, whereas I think, there are a lot of groups that just want to build a big sales army. And have a couple thousand people selling underneath because, all the commissions roll up. So there's some really big agents out there. This is nothing new. These guys have done a great job, and they've, created a lot of wealth.
So guys, if you want to check that out, that's otgconsulting.com.
.net.
.net. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. And Jeffrey's on LinkedIn. So let's shift. I want to talk about your recent trip that seemed to have really shifted your focus, or not focus, but like what you and Karen are moving towards in some areas. And so what kicked off this, when it was a road trip, right? Like it was an initial just staycation that you decided to, or not staycation, like long vacation that you decided to take?
Yeah, well, it started off with, as kind of building off of this OTG thing, the mission is to help people. So now we're taking it to the next level. We're trying to help people with personal things like, help more healthful living, think healthful living and relationships and things like that. So, we've been married 27 years and, as I look around, I think, we have one of the best relationships of any other married couple I know. So we're sharing some of those secrets, this thing, the love book that I started when we were early on, leaving Karen a compliment every day, leaving her a love note every day about a coffee machine. It turned into this book. And, things like that. There's certain tools and things that we've used.
This is a book you guys already published?
No, this is
currently working on. Yeah,
this is one we're working on. That's a whole different story. I've got like a whole lineup of books. We got to get the first one done first. I mean, it sounds great. And it's, we got about 85% of it done on this first trip. So we decided to we were going to go to an island. We ended up going to Costa Rica and we were down there for a whole month. And so we brought our dogs with us down there and we stayed at the same hotel. So every morning we would get up and, take the dogs for a walk. It's just an amazing place. I would tell you, anybody that hasn't been Costa Rica, we were in Papagayo, which is a peninsula up on, if you're looking at the map, it's on the western side, Pacific Ocean, top of Costa Rica, top left. And, it was beautiful. You walk out the door and, you see monkeys and coatimundes and there's so many species of butterflies. I mean, it's a really amazing place. And, we would get up every day, take the dogs for a walk, then go down to breakfast. And they had this amazing breakfast set up, the spread. We would go take our laptops and we'd be down there for 3 to 4 hours every day for the first part of the day, working on the book, And they kind of dubbed this corner down there. They call it Pearl's Corner. The general manager would check on us and everybody. It's kind of amazing. Right out of the gates, everyone knew who we were, and I was asking, like, how do you guys all know who we are? Well, I've just been here 2 days, and evidently, no one had ever stayed in the hotel for a month before, and no, I don't think anyone ever brought dogs. So we had our 2 little dogs with us, so they all knew who we were when they saw us walking them around. And, the general manager, I think he maybe thought we were writing a book. We told him we were writing a book on travel, and we're reviewing the hotel for all he knew. So at the end of the day, everyone gave us extra service, and it was incredible, right? So we spent the month down there every morning, pretty much every morning. We did do some exploration and things like that, but writing this book. And we're about 85% done. But the whole premise is, really around relationships, healthful living. Karen's been a hardcore vegan for about 6 or 7 years. I'm fairly close, mostly plant-based eating. And we're the other piece, one of the other pillars is mindfulness, meditation, taking that time in the morning. You and I were chatting this morning about the golden hour. My golden hour is probably more like 2.5 hours, but this whole process I'm going through. And the last thing is minimalism. I'm living up here in the mountains. And, sold the big house, and I got a whole story around that. I mean, we could do a podcast about little pieces of each one of those pillars that I just mentioned, because I've got a lot there to share.
I think you guys should you and Karen should start a podcast together. Yeah,
we'll figure that out. I need your guidance, though. I've messed around with some of the stuff. I'm playing around with a lot of things with YouTube, and we've got a website up there too. It's called Great Health, Abundant Happiness, and Outrageous Love. That's Karen's term she's been using for a while. So really long URL. I couldn't talk her out of that one.
As a marketer, I won't. Not going to share my perspective on that one.
Yeah, you can share with me. Don't share with her, because I did. And if you want to get your head taken off, go ahead and do that. But anyway.
Now, real quick, so people have context. At what stage in your life that we had just walked through did Karen come into the picture?
Oh, that was, so we've been married 27 years. So I've told you, my story about 35 years in the telecom industry. So I was in there a little bit, and we met in Boston early on. Like I was 26 years old or something like that, 54 today. So 26, 25, whatever it was. I don't know what the math works out to. So
and
early
how did you
on,
guys meet?
we met in Boston. Kind of interesting. This is a wild story. So we met in Boston Christmas shopping. I was with my roommate at the time. I remember I left college and went with a fraternity brother, had an open bedroom. You know how it is. We all just go out, figure out where you're going to go. You got to crash somewhere. You got no money, right? And so this guy, I was like a third wheel. I had a girlfriend at the time. We were kind of on the rocks, but I had this. He was a third wheel. And so we met Karen Christmas shopping. I was always trying to get him hooked up with someone. I'm trying to help this guy out, right? I was trying to help people. I guess it's just my good heart, Connor. Anyway, so I thought she was gorgeous. Let's hook Dave up. So we started talking to her, and as the story goes, she'd tell you the story. She thought she was interested in me, not him. But anyway, so he was sending her notes and took her out for lunch one day. That was it. Fast forward 3 years later, I'm a sales manager. We're down on Marriott Long Wharf. There's this bar down there, Tia's, where everyone would go in Boston on Friday afternoon. The sun, place is packed, and I was there with a bunch of sales guys, and we were all down there having fun, celebrating the week. And she comes up to me and said, "Remember me from the mall?" This is 3 years ago, right? And so I'm going to make a long story short. I got a really good story around this whole thing. But I call her up the next morning, 8 a.m. And, I said, "Look, why don't we go out tonight?" And she had this rule that, if somebody didn't have the forethought to call you before Wednesday for the weekend, you had to say no. That was some rule. I don't know where she got this rule. These women have those crazy ideas about things. But she said, "No, I don't think I can."
And guys, just so you know, I am laughing at Jeffrey's jokes. I just am trying to keep my mic muted so you're not getting all background sound and stuff. But I just didn't want to make that sound.
But that's right. So I said, "So here's what I want you to do." She said she won't go out with me tonight. So I said, "Here's what I want you to do. I want you to hang up the phone and call this other guy and tell him you met the man of your dreams. And you can't go out with him tonight, and call me back and tell me we're going out tonight." And then I just shut up. So she says, she goes, "Well, I'm not going to call you. You have to call me." I said, "Okay, great. How much time do you need?" 15 minutes. Okay, I'll call you in 15 minutes. So that was how it started. So, just it kicked in the door there, and we just kind of hit it off. And, we got married. We got engaged 6 months later. So it was pretty fast. That's the story.
It's a good story.
Yeah.
And then
it's fine.
and then you guys have been together since.
Yeah.
A lot of long-term couples I've talked to, also successful entrepreneur couples, they get married pretty early on. And what's interesting about, and this could just be every generation, but our generation, I feel like we date and date and date and date and then break up and then move on to the next relationship and date and date and date and date. And I'm an old soul, hopeless romantic, but it's interesting in the current ecosystem and landscape that we're in right now, especially with technology. Yeah.
Well, being a planner and, a lot of this too is, in my mind, you go to college, you go and get a job, you find that person you're going to spend your life with. Once these are all stepping stones, and you just nail them down. And a lot of it's timing. I was ready at the time, so was she. But I'm committed, and that's it. We're gonna get this thing done. We're gonna go, buy that first house, get the dogs, have the kids, get them through college. I've done all that now. So we're kids are out of college. They're working. They're going down their paths. So now we're, as I like to call it, people call it empty nesters. We call ourselves free birds, because now we do whatever we want. We're kids again, where we can go out and spend a month in Costa Rica if we want, right?
And so what you guys were writing the book while you're in Costa Rica, And then you road tripped after that, or you're doing a long-term road trip?
Yeah, we've got a few of these plans. So, I mean, these are interesting, these road trips. When we're driving, because we have the dogs, we just find it's easier. Plus, what's interesting, this last road trip was about a month and a half. So we leave Colorado, we're heading east. I go to Des Moines, Iowa, meet a client in Des Moines, Iowa, go to Chicago where our daughter Morgan Rose lives. We spent a week there with her. We did an OTG event. We had like 40 people. It was an event going on there. And so we'll see clients and the other businesses that we're running along the way and family members. So, I just feel blessed that we're able to do this. We're out and basically I just kind of look at the map and kind of plan my course. I know I need to be in Chicago to see Morgan Rose, East Hampton. My older daughter's out there now with her fiance. Spent a week there, and we went to see some family in Rhode Island. Went up to the Cape, spent a week there doing some more work on the book. Went out to Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, back up to Portsmouth to see my family, up to Vermont, see other family, But all along the way in Boston, I'm connecting with old guys from First Phone, bringing them into OTG. So we're kind of on a mission, building out OTG as we go, and also really living life to the fullest. I mean, that's part of what this whole book is about in my journey is, more so living life to the fullest. I don't know the exact answer. You talked about a different generation. I mean, there's a lot of folks today. I think a lot of younger kids, certainly my daughters and their group, they're more focused on living life and maybe spending more time, living life and less time cranking out the office. I mean, that's a generalization, but I think it's not a bad thing. Because as I look back, I cranked a lot of hours in the office, man. We used to give people a hard time, taking all your vacation. You were weak. Now I tell you, take all your vacation and then some, right? And you have to, right?
So that's really looking back and building your career, do you wish that you took more time? I mean, you're a successful entrepreneur, intrapreneur. Do you wish you would have taken more vacation, experienced life a little more back then?
I have to say yes, but I would just give one caveat too for and I'd say this to, my daughter's fiance or our younger brother or anybody out there that I'm trying to give guidance to. I mean, you still have to work hard to kind of establish that foundation. I mean, there's a reason why, I could spend a month in Costa Rica and go on the road for a month and a half and, live on the side of a ski mountain. I've generated a certain amount of success, and with that, you have to have some money to get some things done. So, it's a mix. So I would have to say, yes, I'd probably go back and, I probably wouldn't have spent that extra hour in the office, maybe trying to help that one person get over the hump, I would make sure I took all my vacation time, but, I wouldn't change that much really at the end of the day. I mean, I feel, again, pretty blessed with the situation I'm in now, looking back. I have a lot of friends, still stay connected with a lot of people. I mean, on LinkedIn, maxed out. I don't know, most people probably don't know this, and if you're very well connected, you do. You can only have 30,000 contacts and they shut you down. I mean, I have to nix people, shut them off to pull other people in.
You can get them to follow you.
Yes.
Or I think you can go to influencer model or something like that in your profile, and then everyone who's interested in connecting can just follow you at this point. So
that's good.
I don't get why they would cap you off like that, but another friend of mine, she has 200,000 followers on LinkedIn. She had to go through that same transition. So I'll hook you guys up, and maybe she can walk you through that process.
Yeah. No, I'd like to know, but so looking back, I don't really have too many. I don't have really too many regrets. I mean, I can't really say I have any regrets. So I'd probably tweak it a little bit, but wouldn't change it much to answer your question.
Mm-hmm. So still putting in that hustle, putting in that work to build the life that you're able to have now it's still worth, don't just go schmooze on a beach when you're in your early 20s, when you can be building something for the future.
Right. Well, I mean, everybody needs some sort of a nest egg, some sort of foundation. Unfortunately or fortunately, that's just the way the world works. I mean, you got to have some money to, buy the necessities. day in and day out. But, Brian Tracy, for going back to the cassette tapes, listen to this. He always said that your 20s and 30s were your learning years and your 40s and 50s were your earning years. So I'm in mid 50s here. So meaning you make the most money in your 40s and 50s because now you have something to bring to the table. That's the whole idea. Unless you're some whiz kid and you start the new Facebook or whatever it is, and you're 20, you blow that whole thing out of the water. But at the end of the day, I mean, that recipe is still pretty much solid out there. So at some point you have to, maybe it's condensed now. Maybe the learning years, maybe it's only 10 years and not 20, and maybe the earning years is only 10 years. And maybe you have this ability to go and experience life more and be more entrepreneurial. That's what I'm trying to share with people, by the way. When anybody looks at my posts and follows me and sees what I'm doing, month in Costa Rica, you're in Chicago, and by the way, all the pictures you post, you're not doing a post in that meeting, taking notes or
right.
I'm posting pictures. I'm out having a cocktail on the beach, right, everywhere. So I mean, people think you're retired, but at the end of the day, I have a lot more of that intermingled into my business because I'm basically doing it on my own terms. So I'm trying to help more people get there with OTG. Yeah,
I find a lot of people my age and even in their early 30s, the millennial generation they see that because of social media, they see that person like you who's on the beach and retired, and not retired but looks retired, right. Or right. Their peers who made it big doing something, and they want to take these shortcuts. And yeah, you can shortcut by getting around incredible people like Jeffrey, which, it's why we do this podcast. It's local, and you can literally connect with Jeffrey. He's here in the state of Colorado, and you can shortcut your success by pulling in their experiences and condensing that time. But I think patience is really undervalued, and that's probably my toughest thing too, is I'm young and I want it so bad, but there's so much more that other people have taken steps for to get there. So patience.
Right. No, I think that's good. That's good advice. And yeah, let me just dive on that. Anybody that wants to talk with me about OTG and getting involved in how to build residual commissions, there are a lot of people that do this in conjunction with, working for the man. Let me just say this. I've, through my whole career, and I would advise anybody, you'd never cross a line where you were doing something that would put you in jeopardy of your existing job. But we have people that may be selling, I'm going to make this up, they may be selling some type of router, some type of box, or some type of software. Well, they run into people that need bigger bandwidth connections, bigger internet connections, or, hey, I need to move my phone system over to hosted voice over IP. Who do you know? Those types of people are really great in OTG because of all of our resources. They can pass that off. We get the deal done, and they make a residual stream. And I just say that, what did they just do for that customer? They're not only selling that box or software that they sell, but they're also being very consultative and helping them on another issue, and they're related. Everything that we touch, we're saving 20 to 40% and upgrading the technology. So it's all goodness. So I'll just pile on to what you said, Connor, and open. You've got my contact out there. Connect with me on LinkedIn, or it's JP, like Jeffrey Pearl, at otgconsulting.net. But I'm happy to help anybody. And Karen will tell you this. She's half the time she's like, "Who are you talking to?" I've got people that reach out, and I'm at a stage where I really want to give back, and I truly believe this. If you help enough people get what they want, you get what you want in the end. And I've always tried to live my life that way. And as I'm that old salty dog on the hill, I'm sharing that more with this whole journey with the book and the blogging and everything that we're doing, what we're building out. It's really trying to help others, not just in their business career, but also life. When you get to be my age, Connor, you can't eat cheeseburgers every day, and you have to actually start to watch out for your health. So I'm helping guys. I got guys around me that people have passed on, fraternity brothers who have died, heart attacks and cancers, and all these things that a lot of this stuff, a lot of it is preventable if you take care of yourself. So trying to help in that area, that's the healthful living piece wrapped around the whole relationship thing, because the psychology of all of this is as much valuable as the healthful eating, and living piece, right? The psychology of all this is important too, right?
So what is the big like? What's the next thing for you? What's the next goal? What's the next milestone that you're pursuing at this point?
Yeah, so I think we're just going to keep these businesses all rolling that I have, because it has to fund all of this. But I'm really, I'm still learning. So the next big goal is to take this to the next level. This whole mindfulness thing, and this is the thing that I'm careful on talking to business people about, because I can tell you back when I was that blue collar kid and going out there and just when Karen called me for early on in our career, a bird fell out of a nest and I was just hardcore. I'm just like, it's survival of the fittest. Leave it there. Go to work. Kind of thing. She'll tell you the story. She almost dumped me then on that one. It was pretty. Now I'm looking back, it's terrible. But I'm the kinder, gentler Jeffrey Pearl. I'm trying to share this. So the next big thing is taking this to the next level, and I'm learning every day through research and YouTube and all this information out there. I mentioned to you, reality transurfing is the latest. So the whole Zig Ziglar, Brian, everybody gets this, the positive mental attitude, the secret law of attraction. What you think about every day comes back to you. So, if you want to be successful, you're thinking about yourself as a success. You're thinking about all of those wins, and that stuff comes back to you from the universe. That's the law of attraction. Reality transurfing was written by a Russian physicist. And, it's amazing to me how all these quantum physics and all this stuff gets ingrained in this stuff. But reality transurfing, just at a high level, is, from this second on, you and I both have unlimited paths we can go down. And this second, there's unlimited paths. This second, there's unlimited paths. So every moment in time, you have an unlimited paths in front of you, right? You get that. If I decided to do this call with you today on a Saturday morning, instead of heading over to Breckenridge right away, that's a different path. And then when I hang up here and go out and grab Karen, we're either going to go on a hike or whatever we're going to do. You're making choices at every given moment. So reality transurfing is, you almost think of it as a movie, and there's unlimited movies out in front of you. Everything from the worst, the worst Jeffrey Pearl to the best, most self-actualized Jeffrey Pearl, and everything in between. So, I have this vision of where we're going to be, on a beach. I did something the other day. I don't know if it was on a blog, but, I've got this thing, Karen and I are in this place on an island, and you go out the door and the steps are right on the beach. There's nothing between us and the water. And this isn't some big mansion. It's like a little bungalow kind of a thing. We're right there on the ocean. I got a lot of detail around it. But this feeds into this. So there's a life in front of me that takes me to that point, and that point is they call them frames. I like to call them illustrations. So think about it like a movie, like a film strip all the way out, every second, every moment to get to that point. And you can take any one of those frames out of the movie, take that picture. So I have that vivid picture of that end goal. And so, that's very clear in my mind. And the thing about reality transurfing is, and you're nodding your head, people can't see this on audio, but at the end of the day, you get it. If you really understand that, yeah, that makes sense that I could be any one of those end games. If you believe that, that's there. We already have it, right? Because if you believe what I'm telling you, you already have that end game. You already have that beach house where you're living there and money's just dropping in the mailbox, and you're out there helping people, and you're living your plant-based life. You're swimming in the salty seas, and you're getting your sunshine every day. It's so real for me. I already have that today. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm just going to turn a corner and that's it. I'm going to find this place. It's this island here. That's the house, and there it is. So reality transurfing is just one of those ways. I think it helps people look at it a different way, because once you understand that the success is right there and it's within your reach, you already have it. It's easier to manifest it and head to it. This is a longer discussion, but does this all make sense?
It makes sense to me. It's like it is the timeless think and grow rich type mentality, but taken to another level, I guess. Yeah, and that other level, thank you. You're absolutely right. And,
this whole thing, when you dig into this, there are no new ideas. All the ideas are already out there in the universe. This is what you hear a lot of these gurus say. And I really believe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I really believe this, because Was it you that said something to me about the caves? Oh, no, somebody else.
Caveman?
No,
I talk about cavemen sometimes.
No, it was something about the caves, and this was this old, idea about how people visualize things. I love Ben Franklin quotes. There's things that Ben Franklin said way back when that are still viable today, or something Eckhart Tolle quoted something from the Bible. I'm always amazed that there are things that were written like hundreds of years ago, and today you could just roll it out there and throw that same concept, maybe put a twist on the words, but it's the exact same information and it's still pertinent. I mean, isn't that amazing to you that someone would say something back then, and there's no internet and there were no cars, and that same philosophy is still viable today? I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's timeless.
Yeah, it's interesting how all philosophies, mindsets, blah, blah, blah is out there. And it's like you can't really come up with a new, like, this is a timeless principle. There's nothing you can come up with today that's a timeless principle that hasn't been iterated at some point in the past. Even Greek, old Greek literature and the Egyptians and all that. Yeah, that's very fascinating.
It's amazing. But, the one thing about reality transurfing I really like is I'm trying to help other people. Just imagine there's someone that's down and out that might be listening to this right now where, maybe they lost their job, they don't have a job, lost their significant boyfriend or girlfriend or, whatever, paint a picture. It's hard for them to see themselves in this successful place. So, but if you understand reality transurfing and you know that all these paths are in front of you, and you really get it, it allows you to put a mindset around, I already have that. And, it picks somebody up out of the dumps and helps lift them up. And I think that's the biggest challenge when you try to help people, whether you're a sales manager, trying to help them become successful, or you're, just a guy like me trying to help other people live a better life, whatever it is. The biggest challenge is taking one of those light takers that we mentioned early on, and turn them into a light giver. I mean, sometimes you can't change somebody's core, but if you can help them just a little bit, help them breathe easier just a little bit, your purpose in life is fulfilled. So
1% improvement is exponential on itself. 1% in taking a step back is not as exponential on its impact.
Exactly.
And, so Jeffrey, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate it. And we'll have to do another podcast. We could probably talk for an entire hour like we did the other day about the mindset and everything like that. I'm super fascinated on it. So for people that want to learn more, they want to connect with you, they want to see what you're up to, how can they reach you?
Well, they can ping me on LinkedIn, or message me there. I'm on that usually every day. Email jp@OTG, Old Telecom Guys, otgconsulting.net. We've got my assistant sees that as well. That's easy to get a hold of me. So hit me up on LinkedIn and go ahead. You can go ahead and IM me, on my cell phone is 720-394-3722. So,
and you got Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. So for those of you that use those platforms, you can go follow Jeffrey out there. Guys, thanks so much as always for listening in. Don't forget to subscribe. Please leave a review. It's always helpful for us. And we'll see you on the next one.